The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but we have encouraged you all along to like and share them on social media and with all of your friends and neighbors, because if it's happening on the Treasure Coast, you'll hear it on the Sue-Ellen Show.
Welcome to the show, and I'm so glad you're here. I have two guests today from GFNF for Kids, which I know is Guardians for New Futures for Kids. It only took me how many years to get that automatically, years of Debbie Butler coming on the show back in the day when Guardians for New Futures was kind of just getting started as an organization. Melissa Winstead is with us, and she is the Chief Innovation Officer, and Stephanie Castellanos, who is the Prevention Education Coordinator, because now not only has GFNF for Kids, Guardians for New Futures for Kids, grown, they also have a location too where they offer a counseling center where they offer their services. I know it's Christina who's the CEO, right? Or
Caroline.
Caroline. I knew it started with a C. Mm-hmm. So we had Caroline on the show right before the center actually opened a year ago. And so we got an idea of a little bit about what the center actually hosts. But Melissa, can you give us more detail about what is going on and how the changes have impacted child care and child services in St. Lucie County and actually on the Treasure Coast?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you so much, Sue-Ellen, for having us today. It's always such a delight coming and speaking to you. So at Children's Advocacy Center, not a lot of people know what goes on at a CAC. Here in the state of Florida, there are 28 Children's Advocacy Centers, and in the country, around the world, over 1,100. So what a CAC is it's a multidisciplinary model of dealing with child abuse, physical, sexual, child neglect, you name it. That's what we do at the Children's Advocacy Center. We partner with law enforcement. We partner with the state attorney. We have forensic interviews, sometimes forensic medical exams. We offer child advocacy, and it's a wraparound approach to helping children who have disclosed that they've been abused.
So basically, it's a one-stop center.
It's a one-stop shop for a child that has been hurt. So,
and I know one thing Caroline had talked about is the fact that when a child has been hurt, telling their story is very difficult. And having to tell it multiple times in multiple situations just sometimes often makes it worse. And having everybody who can gather together in an advocacy center creates a situation where the child hopefully only has to tell that awful story once.
Absolutely. So at the Children's Advocacy Center, the forensic interview involves a specially trained interviewer who knows how to speak to children age appropriate and, we have a child-friendly environment, so the child is relaxed as soon as they come in. They're playing with toys.
There's a therapy dog.
Oh, yes. And I forgot about Autumn. How can I forget about her? She is absolutely amazing. She lets the kids pet on her and hug her and makes them feel really welcomed. And it kind of reduces their anxiety. And you were mentioning that, prior to a CAC, a child would have to tell their story over and over and over again in many different environments, and sometimes in a police station. And we know that sometimes kids, are kind of afraid of police officers. So having them in a place where it's child friendly and they feel safe, and we've given them snack to eat, they've been given a bunny, they've played with the puppy, and then they go for their interview, and it is video and audio recorded. And at the same time that the interview is going on, our team is watching it on closed camera, so that if there are any questions, the interviewer can step out, talk to law enforcement, and really the point behind it is to get evidence to prosecute a child abuser.
Mm-hmm. And it's not, of course, just family. It's other possible abusers in the child's life.
Yes, I also want to touch base on what Melissa was sharing. The Children's Advocacy Center provides that intervention for these children, that healing process, that justice process for these kids, which is why I mentioned the therapy dog. When a child comes in through those two front doors, they're the first person that they meet is that therapy dog. And to answer your question, Sue Ellen, you mentioned it's not just family. It's whoever is in close contact with the child. Mm-hmm. It's whoever is in close contact with the child.
And actually, I was talking to a friend the other day about she's interviewing for a coach's position, and she was talking about, you know, how she has to take these classes and be run through the system for a coach's position. And we were talking about how so frequently in a child's life, it's a person of authority, which could be a coach or a teacher, that creates the abusive environment or space for the abuse to occur. And a lot of times, you know, you deal with children, and do you define children up to age 18? I mean, how does that?
Yes, at the center, we do define them to the age of 18. Children as young as 3 years old have come into the Children's Advocacy Center to receive that forensic interview, to receive a forensic medical examination. Also, therapy services is something that we offer at the Children's Advocacy Center. One of the things that I wanted to mention is we also have DCF, a family unit, investigators that are assisting these particular cases located at the Children's Advocacy Center. Up until age 18, we service them.
Mm-hmm. Previous to when the Advocacy Center opened, Guardians for New Futures was active on the Treasure Coast, and so they've made a lot of community inroads in a support system for their needs, and they've also had the opportunity to participate in other community programs. As I mentioned, Debbie Butler, who first founded the program because she saw a need for helping for somebody other than the parent, a guardian, to be helping children find the services that they need. And I know the Advocacy Center is like the culmination of the project, because as more services took place on the Treasure Coast, it became more obvious that you needed an actual physical building and a center.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. You mind if I speak? I think Guardians for New Futures was started in 2011 by a group of guardian ad litems. And subsequent to that, Debbie came on board as the board president and just had a vision that our community, the 19th Judicial Circuit, needed an advocacy center.
Well, thank you for correcting
sure.
my assumption. No I problem. Only met Guardians for New Futures through Debbie.
So Guardians for New Futures was funding the needs of children in the welfare system, and also putting on an annual child summit and educating folks that were working in the child welfare system. So it was this sort of this multidisciplinary approach that started to grow. Mm-hmm. And then when Debbie started to really go gung-ho and tell people we need, she was incredible at aligning people and getting folks to see the value of bringing a CAC here. The 19th Circuit represents 4 counties, so that's a huge service area that GFNF CAC covers. But remember that the CAC is a program of GFNF, and another program is our child abuse prevention education, which is what Stephanie.
Okay, so the building is just one of the programs. The Advocacy Center is
That is
just
correct.
one of the
That
programs.
is correct.
So let's talk about what some of the other programs are.
Sure. We have a pilot program going on currently, and we've started in late January. It's the Child Abuse Prevention Education Program. And what that exactly is going to the community and building partnerships with different social innovators in our community, because we believe that it takes a village to protect these children, to provide that safety network for these kids. So we've partnered with Boys and Girls Club, where we're providing this prevention education program with a curriculum that we've also partnered with another foundation. They're called Monique Burr Foundation, and they have presented to us a curriculum that we can provide child abuse prevention education from the ages of 3 to 12th grade. So that is something that we're doing currently. I am the prevention educator coordinator, and also implementing that in our community. And what that looks like is going into the after school programs, going into the private sectors and meeting with these children one-to-one, interacting, engaging with these kids, and providing that safe net for them, that education piece to them.
And, you know, when you think about it and you realize that a child spends so much more of their time outside their home than in it, between going to school and possible after school programs and any other after school activities, you know, to be able to add this to what the knowledge that they're already gaining is so important. And especially that, because you cover the gamut from 3 on, this can be an ongoing education piece for them too. So you're partnering with Boys and Girls Club and also with another foundation, but there are bukus of smaller organizations in both Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce, and I'm sure in the other 3 counties too, that also offers some type of after school extracurricular services for children. How are you getting into those areas?
Go ahead.
Well, as I mentioned, we believe that it takes a village. So it's partnering with every social innovator, every private sector. If you have, if you're a preschool owner, a private school director, it's just a matter of presenting to them the statistics that are happening at the Children's Advocacy Center.
And I have to say, if you don't mind me interrupting, but when Stephanie introduces this amazing program, people look at her and say, why wouldn't I want you to present this to my nursery group or my Boys and Girls Club or whatever the group may be, because it's that good of a program.
That life altering. Do people have to wait for you to come to them, or can they reach out to you to bring you into their organization?
That's a really good question. So it's currently myself in St. Lucie County.
And that's one person in 4
one
counties.
person in 4 counties for now.
But it's brand new.
For now. But if there's anyone that wishes for me to come to their school, absolutely reach out, and we will see how we can accommodate the children that they're servicing. So this program is actually a 50-minute program. It's provided in 6 modules to these children from a group of 15 to 20. So it's not to say that we cannot, that it's a no completely. We can definitely accommodate these children, and that's what we want to do. We want to prevent child abuse. We want to prevent sexual abuse. And one of the things that this curriculum does is it provides that conversation. When we provide that curriculum, these modules to these children, it provides that conversation at home. And we also believe in strengthening families, strengthening the relationship between a mother and a child, a father and a child. I know that for my last segment, we offered the program to 27 children. And we had several parents that called in and said, "What exactly are you offering my kid? What is Red Flag?" Because it's one of the arts and crafts that we provide to the kids. That very first, I mean,
it's an arts and craft.
Yeah, it's
so how cool is that?
Yes, it is. There's songs. There's a rap song, which I don't know it, so please don't ask me.
So they're learning. Without realizing they are learning.
Oh, yes.
Age appropriate.
Yeah.
It's age appropriate. It's age appropriate. There's
building blocks, so it's great to educate the kids. And Stephanie also instructs the the classroom facilitators, so the kids will get that reinforcement from the teachers.
Is any part of your curriculum, you're talking about arts and crafts and play, but is any of the curriculum things that you could present virtually?
So that is something that we're
future?
currently working on. If you go to our website, we do have education for preventing child abuse. And that's virtually right now if you go to our website. So the answer for that is yes.
Well, I was going to tell you, Stacy Carter from St. Lucie County Fire District during the COVID years took all of her, she was the educator she is the educator for the fire district. She took all of her presentations and she turned them into like little cartoon things. And there's a program that she used. We gave her, the Florida Public Relations Association gave her awards last year because if you look at that, you go on the fire district's website now and they have it in English and in Spanish. And obviously if you have the art component and the play component, it's better to do it in person. But what was unique were they weren't just talking head videos, they were cartoon snippets and like a video game. So anyhow, not to.
So that
awesome.
is also part of that's also part of each module, not every module.
Yes, but some of them.
Some of them, yes. I will come in with a TV and as I mentioned, it does have a cartoon segment in the module.
It makes it so much easier for the kids to relate.
Yes. And as they're learning these personal safety rules, one of the things that I share with them is these are personal safety rules that they take on for the rest of their life. And it's a kinetic learning as well. It's moving around, moving your muscles and exercising while you're learning these 5 safety rules. And I'll share that in a little bit, what these 5 safety rules are. And I share with these children that it's something that they would take on for the rest of their lives. Personal safety, it's wisdom. And one of the things I say to them, who wants to be the smartest child in the classroom? And each and every one of them raise their hand.
Of course, yes.
Because that very first rule is knowing what's up.
Yeah.
It's knowing what's up. It's knowing your mother and your father's first and last name, knowing their phone number. We live in a era now that once you plug in those numbers into that phone at contact, you're not memorizing that.
Yeah, and so for them to say, well, I press 1 is meaningless if they're in a dangerous situation and they need to get to mom or dad.
Correct. So I share with them, I mean, if you're gonna go spend an hour or maybe spend the night at a friend's house, it's important that you know your mother and your father's first name and their cell phone number, your address. Because if anyone were to ever ask you, and I share this with 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, if anyone were to ever ask you, what is mom's name? Your answer can be mom, but it should also be their first and last name. And if they were to go on and continue and ask you for a cell phone number and an address, you are the smartest person in the classroom if you have that answer. So right from that very first lesson, they go home and that's part of their homework to partner with their mom and learn their cell phone number and learn their house address and learn their first and last name. And same for grandma, any caregiver. anyone that's in close contact with these children.
Yeah. And it's funny because over the years, Melissa's children and my children are both grown. But in the years our children were little and growing up, the safety lessons they learned were very different.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's world, the personal safety end of it is so important. And so, whereas, my kids knew about fire safety, again, stop, drop, and roll, and it was something that they repeated. And then you go back a generation before, and the safety rules were probably a little different. So these are the new safety rules, so to speak, that children need to grow up with to ensure that they are safe and happy and that they can share with their family too. Also, if you're dealing with a 4 or 5-year-old and they're going home and maybe their 8 or 9-year-old sibling doesn't even know their parents' cell phone and never really thought about the importance of that, then they're not going to let their little sister or brother show them up. They want to be the smartest person in the room
That
too.
is true.
That's true.
That is true.
So
I also want to share that this program sparked after having the Children's Advocacy Center opened. We've serviced over 475 children at the Children's Advocacy Center. Out of those 475, possibly 360 forensic interviews. Statistics show that 1 in 4 girls have been sexually abused, 1 in 6 boys. Just having one child come into the Children's Advocacy Center is too much, not alone 465. And that just
and that's just in that's in a
Since
less
June
than a year.
of 2022.
that's it's 8 months.
Yeah.
And that's where Caroline and the rest of the team, Angela Karate's part of the team, Melissa Winstead, Christopher, Debbie, we sat down and as we're brainstorming as a team, and what else can we do? Not just the intervention piece at the Children's Advocacy Center, but provide that prevention. Let's stop child abuse from happening. Let's allow these families to have these conversations. It's not conversations that anyone wants to have. It's actually conversations that you brush under the rug.
Well, when I learned that 95% of child abuse could be prevented through education, I knew that I needed to get back into this line of work and to help prevent the child abuse that is so prolific in our community. So,
And not just in our community, of course, throughout the United States.
that's right.
Children, they're the weak link. They're the ones that can most often be taken advantage of. And unless somebody steps up and protects them and offers them a way, because we can't be everywhere for them, so they have to have the tools.
And you touched a powerful point right there, Sue Ellen. You said that they're the weaker link, and really that's what the perpetrator looks for. They don't look for a specific targeted child. They look for the weaker link. And one of the things that this program and our program, the prevention education, it empowers these children to have that assertive voice to say no. It empowers our children to be aware of their surroundings. I mean, one of the 5 safety rules is make a move. If you see a warning sign, it's okay to stay away. It's okay to say no. If a relative is asking you for a hug and you don't feel comfortable, you can say no and come to a safe adult.
Yeah. So before we move forward, let's discuss those 5 safety rules.
Sure.
And then we can go back to how you teach them and how you apply them.
Absolutely. So the 5 safety rules is knowing what's up. And as I mentioned, it's kinetic learning. So it's knowing what's up. So let's do
describe
it.
what
Let's
you're
do
doing.
it.
Okay.
So
Because the people who are listening on the radio, we're holding up 2 L's
yep.
facing each other.
Okay, and you're going to repeat after me. Know what's up.
Know what's
Know
up.
what's up.
So you're pointing to your eyes and know what's up.
Know what's up. Spot the red flag.
Spot the red
Spot the red
flag, and
flags.
that the hand is over our forehead, kind of like
right? And you're
Chips,
making a
chips
motion.
ahoy.
Yeah. Yeah. You're making a move.
Making a
Making a
move, which
move.
is with our arms.
Like
Our
you're running in
arms
place.
Like you're
and our
running.
body. Yep. As
Yeah.
if you're
Make a
walking.
move.
Yep. Making a move.
Okay.
Talk it up.
Talk it up, and we're hands
Talk
on
it up.
on both sides of our mouth.
Talk it up. And no blame, no shame.
No blame,
No
no
blame,
shame,
no
and that's
shame.
with the thumbs.
Right.
So A-OK, no blame, no shame.
No blame, no
Okay.
shame.
So know what's up, spot red flags, make a move, talk it up, and no blame, no shame. You touched on just briefly the fact that there's hard conversations that families may need to have or often need to have. I mean, there's a lot of hard conversations. We know over the years there have been plenty of hard conversations we've had to have as families, but knowing that other families are in the same situation and that there's strategies to be able to do that, to make those difficult discussions a little bit easier or a little bit more comfortable in some way to get it started. Because sometimes it's getting it started. One of my favorite things when my kids were preteens to do was to watch a show that was one of their favorite shows with them. And especially if something happened in the show, that gave us something. We weren't discussing us, we were discussing the characters in the show. And laugh if you want at those after school specials, but they were really on target, because a lot of times, and I know you know this, you know this better than me because you've studied it, but if you're talking about something happening to someone else, your child is more likely to discuss it with you than if you say, and how are you feeling about this? And my kids are 28 and 29 now, and they're still like that. We still use things like movies and books and TV shows to reference those difficult conversations.
Right. Well, I raised 4 kids, and it was just always really important to my husband and I to try to keep the communication open with children. But I know that it's really important when there's a suspicion of child abuse or a child discloses, that you really want a professional to interview the child.
Oh, yeah.
Because we can sometimes confuse kids, put words in their mouths, and kind of derail.
Okay, and I probably did a fair amount of that too.
I'm not accusing you of anything, Sue Ellen,
but I'm just saying.
but that's what the Children's Advocacy Center is for. You know,
wasn't.
we're here now.
I'm going to say there wasn't a child advocacy center in town.
Mhm.
But now there is, and that is a solution, a perfect solution, and a growing solution.
Exactly. As the community, all 4 communities, us together, learn more about what we're doing at the Children's Advocacy Center, and we get more support, we get more funding, more grant funding, individuals, corporations, then we can hire more people that Stephanie can train and send them out into the schools and the Boys and Girls Clubs and the daycares.
Something else about children, you have 4 and I had 2. And I thought naively with my second child that I would just kind of be able to follow the lead of the first child when I was raising my second child, because it was just like 15 months later. I mean, I knew all the lessons. I knew how to do everything with them, not realizing that every child has to be treated differently. Every child has a different set of knowledge and information and needs. And I can't imagine how you handled it with 4.
I don't know if I did, actually. But you're right. Children at different kids have different developmental abilities, personalities, characters. They have different learning styles. So I'm not an educator, far from it. But
But you know who to call.
Yes, exactly.
Sometimes that's the more important part.
I agree.
So Ellen, I'm actually a mother as
you
well.
are too.
I have a 12-year-old and I have twin 6-year-olds.
You have a 12-year-old?
I
You
have
do
a
not look
12-year-old?
old enough to have a 12-year-old.
Well, I did start young.
Okay.
And actually meeting Melissa, I felt better.
She started young.
We
too.
started young.
That's too
We
funny.
got married young.
Yes, yeah. I started old.
It's okay.
Well, not old, but you know,
It's okay.
mature.
So I mean, and that also sparks that passionate within me, to make the impact. I mean, I'm a protector. I'm assertive. I'm a fun, a cool, nurturing mother. And if you ask me, why do I do this every day? What's my why? And it's, if I want my children to be in a safe community, then there's so much more that I need to do. If I can impact my children, then I can impact the rest of these kids in our community. And if we impact the rest of these kids in our community, then we're impacting a generation, to where you're in our past generation and I'm I'm raising current babies. But I mean, the message continues. It's protecting these kids, and we have to talk about it. We have to break the stigma.
We do. We absolutely do. And the other part of the situation to acknowledge is that it's not just what we're communicating as parents and guardians to them, it's how those children are hearing it. Because for every child who hears what you say the way you meant it, then there's another child who hears something different. My children, actually, the generation before my siblings, there were 4 of us, and we all grew up in the same house. And we all had different childhood experiences. My brother, who's 2 years older, felt like he grew up in a poor house, and I actually checked upper middle class on a college application when I was filling it out, and my mother looked at me and said, "What are you doing? What are you thinking?" So it's all in the perception of what your expectations are. And still looking back with us, my siblings have grandchildren now, and they still had a different life experience in the same house with the same parents. Because it was because of their perception. And so you have those kids that you're going out and educating, and you want them to come back and say, this is fun that we're learning this, and this is a positive thing that we're learning this, because their positive experience is going to rub off on others as a positive experience.
That is true. That is true. And Melissa, if we can talk about April being...
Absolutely. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we are kicking off the month with every Friday doing a Walk in Their Shoes tour. And the tour will be of the Children's Advocacy Center, and it starts at 9 a.m., goes till 10, and it'll give the folks on the tour a great overview of the work that we're doing. And then we're having a groundbreaking barbecue on April 15th from 4 to 6 p.m. And what that is, we have this incredible vision to build a children's healing garden. And we're going to use it as part of our therapeutic process, and we're going to make it available to other community partners. So it's going to be this beautiful garden, 1,700 square feet.
Wow.
And we're fundraising to build it out.
That's
and
big plans.
Yes, and it's so exciting. So we're inviting all of our stakeholders who have helped us open up the Children's Advocacy Center and get us this far, and new stakeholders to come and see what we're doing and take a tour.
Sure, there's
and
a lot of opportunities to have name recognition
Absolutely.
for sponsors, especially in a garden.
Absolutely. So anyone can go to our website, www.gfnfforkids.org, and learn more about the month of April and the activities that we're doing with the Walk in Their Shoes tour, as well as the healing garden that we'll be building soon, and our groundbreaking for that garden.
So your timing couldn't be better to be talking about this right now.
We agree.
Yeah,
We appreciate you having us here.
That's so awesome. I remember Caroline talking about the plans that were a little further afield last spring when she was talking about opening the CAC, because the advocacy center was the first step, and it wasn't quite open yet. But the thing about having a garden is it's a natural place for people to feel calm. The outdoors has always been a place where, you know, whether you're 2 or 92, you know, you go outside, especially when it's not 98 degrees. But on a spring day, or on an early autumn day, or some time where, you know, you just, when you're feeling upset about something, when you're feeling confused, when you go outside, and it's such a calming effect, especially if you have that. You know, I'm sure you picture too, like the garden with a pond and koi fish and little waterfall, and now I could just see it. I was like,
have you seen the model? You'll need to come out to the Advocacy
Yes,
Center and take
yeah.
a tour, Sue Ellen. We'd
Yeah.
love to have you out there, and then you can see the mock-up of the healing garden.
And so that's
Yeah.
kind of what, okay, so I gave you my imagination of it. So you tell me
Yeah.
what's really happening. You've
Okay,
seen
well.
the mock-up, I haven't.
You're going to have to help me out, Stephanie.
I got you.
So we've got some small buildings where kids can play. There's going to be some a lot of plants that are texturally, you know, the smell and the texture.
Well, that help with the 5 senses, because it's also
Okay.
part of the therapeutic
Okay.
portion of the purpose of the healing garden. Is it's that mental health. It's providing that healing for our children. As I mentioned,
What
it's
herbs provide that? Because that might be something that would be helpful. Am I
Lavender.
putting you on the spot
You
there?
are putting me on the spot. I will tell you that
We
we
could
have
Google that,
stakeholders. We have agricultures that have specialized
Yeah.
in those areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a team that's
Because that
helping
would
us
be
out
good
with
to
that.
know. That would be good information to know. But so, and texture, because feeling something and touching something, you get so much more out of it.
Right. So it's where our therapists are going to provide therapeutic services for our children. And part of this
wow.
healing garden as well is a support for our professional staff, the staff that are in this children advocacy center, that provide this forensic interview, that provide this therapy service, that provide this medical examination. I mean, it's science tells us, psychology tells us that it's a secondary traumatic effect to our body, to the human body. So when a child comes in and they're ready to just disclose and let out exactly what occurred, I mean, we also want to be able to take care of our professional staff. So there's an area for our staff to go ahead and play golf and just
Wow.
take a refresher,
Yeah.
recharge.
Putting green.
Yeah.
There's going to be a putting green, and that was requested by Tim Slavin, who's administrator for Department of Children and Family. So that has been plugged into the blueprints of this healing garden.
But that's a neat idea, because it will also take their mind off while still enjoying nature. They'll have to concentrate on something that's a little bit different, but not too much.
Yeah, I mean, because we believe that, I mean, how can you pour into these children if you're not being poured into?
Yeah.
So that's part of the healing garden, is also providing that support to our professional staff.
That's so important. That's because otherwise you're going to have that serious burnout with your professional staff. So, Stephanie, I'm curious, because you know a lot about a lot of different things. Is your background in mental health, or have you self-taught some of these things to yourself? Because you seem like you're like a textbook full of
Fountain of
I'm a
knowledge,
teacher.
right?
exactly.
Which is why when you asked me to come, I said I'm bringing Stephanie.
Yes, okay. Well, part of your job is knowing who the people are to bring, Melissa. So you chose well. You get credit.
Thank you.
Well, it's an honor, and I say that I'm partnered with the best of the best. We have the best CEO, we have the best CIO, the best board chair. the best marketing director,
Best
CAC
prevention
coordinator,
education coordinator.
And my background, I will share, I received my education at IRSC, Indian River State College, who is also in our community. I have an associate's in education. I originally wanted to be a teacher, and I received my bachelor's for human services, and it's to provide this support to the child welfare system. And I'm currently in school, and I'm also going for my master's in social work. So the part of me that has to constantly study at this very moment is what is providing this education piece for this radio station.
So GFNF for Kids is really lucky that they came upon your bundle of knowledge here. So
We think so.
yeah.
Oh,
And I love to see the synergy that starts because you know, Stephanie, the information that you're imparting here, hopefully if 10 people hear it and remember it, and then they tell 10 people, and then they each tell 10 people, think of all the people who haven't been reached by your programs yet, and they know now the 5 safety rules and can be able to describe them and use them. And then maybe someday when their kids or their grandkids or the people that they're helping see this in the school or in a program, they will recognize it and be the smartest kid in the room right away. Hey, I already know this.
That's right. That's right. It's an evidence-based program.
Yeah.
It's built with child psychiatrists, psychologists. The CDC has endorsed this program as well. And that's
St.
what it's
Lucie County
for.
Public Schools uses the Monique Berg
Okay.
Foundation program.
St. Lucie
Parts
County.
of it.
So
Okay.
let's talk about the kids that come in to the Advocacy Center and how you help them, and then also how these 5 safety rules impact the kids that you are reaching with them. So in other words, take me through the practice of
Okay.
them. So
Okay.
what would that look like?
So when a child has come to disclose that someone has hurt the child, or there's something going on, or there's a mandated reporter around the child and has identified that there's a child abuse case going on, this mandated reporter calls the 1-800-96-ABUSE, which is our local number. If anyone needs to know that and you want to jot that down, that's 1-800-96-ABUSE, abuse, if you have to report a child abuse allegation, a child abuse case. And that can be from sexual abuse, that can be medical neglect, that can be physical abuse, physical injury, that can be emotional abuse, verbal abuse. These are the children that come into the Children's Advocacy Center to receive that support from the rest of the MDT coordinators. And that is what we're providing. I mean, one of the things that I share with these children is I work at a center where we help children that have been hurt, and we don't ever want you to come in through those doors. We as Melissa, you mentioned that 90% of child abuse can be prevented through education. So that is what we provide to our children. The safety rules, being able to speak to a safe adult and share if someone is hurting them or if they know of someone that's being hurt. And we go down, each module goes down through breaking these 5 safety rules. And of course, age appropriate is a different language for each age.
That was the question that was on my mind, because you know that a 4-year-old is going to ask questions. What kind of thing is up? And you know, a 10-year-old will ask different types of questions too, like what do those red flags mean?
Right. So we break down the definition of bullying, the definition of hurt, the definition of being kind. And
that's different for each age group?
yes, it is.
Okay.
Different for each age group. We are providing services for preschool, K through 2, kindergarten to 2nd grade, 3rd grade to 5th grade, 6th grade to 8th grade, and we also have the curriculum for 9th to 12th.
Give us an example of what red flags are.
Absolutely. Red flags are warning signs of maybe someone hurting you with words or hurting you physically. You move away, and that would be going on to the next
Make
role.
a move.
Right.
Yeah.
Another example would be inappropriately touching. So that would be for a sexual abuse case.
And that, again, the language would be different
Correct.
for a 4-year-old than it would be for a 14-year-old.
100%. For a teenager, we go into explicit explanation of safe body touches and what's not safe. For a 4-year-old, we stick to hurtful words or physical abuse can be hitting, pinching,
Biting.
slapping,
Yeah.
biting. That's not okay. So we do use appropriate age language for each age group.
Okay. And then make a move is move away.
Make a move is moving away and going on to the next one, talking it up to a safe adult.
And do you talk to them about who the safe adults are?
It's part of the curriculum and
Okay.
identifying who and what is a safe adult.
Yeah.
Another interesting part of this curriculum is that children confide in children. I mean, they have best friends. And if a best friend shares something with anyone and you feel that it contradicts what we just told you, please go and talk to a safe adult and share it with a safe adult so that you can keep that child or your best friend safe.
Mm-hmm. And that happens more frequently than one might imagine, where you hear about the abuse because that best friend feels more comfortable talking to their peer than to a responsible adult, sadly.
Well, sadly, the child who's been victimized is usually threatened that if they tell anyone, they'll hurt mom or dad or whomever. So there's that fear.
Yeah. Or it could be as simple as, if you tell anybody, they're going to take you away from me. And a child who doesn't know that there could be any other positive options out there, what you don't know.
Right, and that's where the Children's Advocacy Center also comes in to provide that support. Once we go into the last one, no blame, no shame, we also provide parents with that support. If a child discloses upon receiving this curriculum, we provide that support to these families. There's therapy services at our Children's Advocacy Center. We have a licensed mental health clinician who specializes in these cases, providing that support to these families. We have victims advocate with the state attorney's office at our Children's Advocacy Center, ready to assist these mothers, these fathers, these caregivers with the children. We have, as I mentioned, we have our forensic interviewers ready to provide that support, these medical examiners ready to provide that support for our children.
And you can get all of this information and virtual information too that you can share from your website and from the social, I'm assuming you have social media that is active too, because I know I've seen some. Or you can see some of it in person during the month of April, which again is Child Abuse Awareness Month. And Melissa, tell us again what's going on in April at the Guardians for New Futures for Kids.
Sure. We are kicking off a Walk in Their Shoes tour. We're going to hold them every Friday in April. The tours will be from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. You'll need to go to our website and sign up. RSVP. So we'll be running those tours. And then on the 15th, we're having a groundbreaking barbecue where we are introducing new stakeholders, new partners and friends to the Children's Healing Garden that we're about to build, that we're fundraising for. And we are also doing a social media campaign to enlist people to join our Circle of Care monthly giving program. So we have a really bodacious goal to have 375 monthly donors, which would be a fantastic revenue stream for the Children's Advocacy Center and allow us to provide more and more services to the children and families that we serve. So, yeah.
And people can find out, do they have to RSVP for the barbecue?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's online as well, or through social media. If people are looking for GFNF for kids on social media, how do they check that out?
You can go on Facebook and look up GFNF CAC. It should pop right up.
Guardians for New Future.
Guardians for New Future
Yes,
should
below
pop right up.
that, yeah.
You could probably find us on LinkedIn and Instagram. I don't believe we're anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or just or Google Guardians
You'll
for
find us.
New
Futures.
Futures for Kids. And it'll take you to all the different options. So you can RSVP for the barbecue, be part of it. Do you have a mailing list that you send, communication out to?
Absolutely. So from our website, you can also join our electronic mailing list. We send out a quarterly newsletter. So you can join that. You can follow us on Facebook. We just love to stay in contact with our stakeholders. So our telephone number is 772-807-3868. You can call, leave a message, and one of us will get back to you.
And people can also reach out through email and through, the best way to follow along is to follow on Facebook and be part of the newsletter list so you know what's going on and you can check everything out. My guests today have been Melissa Winstead, and she is the Chief Innovation Officer for Guardians for New Futures for Kids. .org, and Stephanie Castellanos, who is the Prevention Education Coordinator and the all-knowing expert. Okay, I can say it.
Hat.
Yes, it is, and they're both here from the Guardians for New Futures for Kids, and you can find out more about their organization online. You've been listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. We're here every weekend with more. Have a great day.
Archives to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show are on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and look up WPSL TV.